Today's video, we are going to talk about how to get rich online. And I do really mean so. This is a tutorial coming from somebody who's been doing online marketing and business. Several companies I have ran in the past as well as currently run, and also run a pretty big ad agency as well. Which that's relevant because I personally see hundreds and hundreds of stories of individuals that are running online businesses that I would have never thought would work on its own or by itself that are working very well, which gives me more perspective than some guy who runs 2 or 3 online businesses would have. So I see it from both sides though. I'm not just a geeky ad guy who's never really ran a business, because that in itself is bunk as well. I run businesses online and I have the ad agency experience seeing the hundreds of different examples of different businesses that run online and run online successfully. So with that said, what I'm going to do with this information that I've collected over the last 15 plus years is give you perspective that if I were to do this all over again, what I would specifically start out with. Some of you guys may already be trying to do something online, but it's not working that great. The main thing you guys need to know, including yourself watching this video, is there's a certain type of so there's lots of different businesses that you can start online. The business type that's going to work for you a little bit depends on your expertise, but more so involves what is your bankroll like, because certain businesses take more than others to start up. But even if you were starting out with $1,000 or a few $1,000 like I did when I started out, you could still get something to work. You just have to work your way up. So there's no point in where you could say, because it's the lamest excuse in the book, I can't start a business because I don't have money. You don't need money to start a business. And if you really were so broke where you couldn't get a few $1,000s to start an online business, go get a bucket and a sponge and go wash some cars on the street like a homeless guy would do. And I promise you, you'll make money doing that and save your money till you get a few thousand. There's no excuse why anybody can't start a business. You don't have to be a genius either. If you have average or above average intelligence, you can make all this work. So, but there's a business though that's going to work based upon your bankroll. People fail when they get to where they start businesses in where the potential can be really big, but they don't have enough money to make a splash in that market or make a dent in that market. And realistically, the golden rule in business in general, not just online business, is you got to develop something where you're 10 times better than the competition. If you don't do that, the cost to acquire a customer is going to be so great that you're just really never going to get momentum in any kind of substantial way. A lot of times, being 10 times better than the competitor is just restructuring your offer, by the way. Like a guaranteed PPC, when I started this agency roughly 10 years ago, I knew, having talked to and also did some consulting and worked for another bigger ad agency before I started this firm, I knew everybody, the most common question was, which is what you should do if you're going to enter a niche. What's the most common complaints about this niche that I can fix the problem and have a business here? The most common question was, can you guarantee the results? Of course, nobody likes to do that if they're running an ad agency. I knew that even if the guarantee was shitty, I could sell my service like hotcakes because nobody offers a guarantee and everybody wants one. So I don't have to have a great guarantee, but there's some level of guarantee there. You know, a parallel example would be in the law firm space. Everybody, what's the common problem with that in that industry? Everybody hates that their lawyer doesn't get back to them. They don't know where their case is at. In that space, if you're a lawyer, you could just simply guarantee you'll get updates every week. And now you have a business that's technically 10 times better than the other competition. You've differentiated yourself. You got to come up with that. Either tweaking your offer, or you got to have enough money to bankroll something that's legitimately 10 times better in terms of volume ordering so you can get your prices down or whatever. But if you can't substantially say that to yourself, what you should do is gear down, come up with a business that has less market potential, meaning the big guys with the big money aren't in it, and that you could dominate it and then parlay your money into something more substantial later on. There's no rule that says you have to make your millions in one business. And what you're doing today has to be what you're doing 10 years from now. You could start out with something really hard and just absolutely beat your head against a wall. But why do that when you could start something that the big guys aren't paying attention to, that you could come in and just crush, and then relay that money into the real thing you want to do? So anyway, with all that said, I will explain the dynamics of what I just explained, and then a basic use case of what I would physically do, having seen personally and witnessed hundreds of companies start up online, run online, what's successful, what's not, and if I were to do all over again, what process I personally would go through if I was starting with less money than I have now. So with that said, regardless of how much money you have, there's, like I mentioned at the start of this video, there's always a business you can tap into. You just have to pick the niche that's right for you. Now, it obviously helps tremendously if you have niche experience. The reason why I got into the ad agency space, guaranteed PPC, is because I already had ad agency experience consulting for that firm I told you about, and I already had experience running e-commerce businesses as well, which why there's so much saturation in the marketing space. Anybody who's ran a business can run an ad agency if they wanted to, if they were successful. But anyway, if you were a dentist and you wanted to start an online business, what you should start is selling dental products to other dentists. Why? Because every other player in that space, believe it or not, probably aren't dentists. And they don't know how to talk to dentists. They don't know the language they use. They don't understand why one product's going to be better than the other. When somebody calls them up, ultimately they're not going to know how to talk to that person to get them to buy and build rapport with them and so on and so forth. Now, that's not a requirement, but if you're going to start out anywhere, start out there. And as a side, by the way, if you were going to start out somewhere, I mention this all the time on my videos. At the end of every video, I say, if you're going to start a business anywhere, you might as well start out with an ad campaign that works for a certain market. That is, I've worked and helped hundreds of companies at this point in time build ad campaigns for their companies. And the ones that we've been working on for years, if you're in a different geographic territory than our client, you can just buy the ad templates that we use for that industry to get profitable customers. And you can just start your business with the winning ad template that works for your market instead of having to figure all that out for yourself. That's a business on training wheels, practically speaking. We also have e-commerce companies that you can get those products very easily, like Printer Toner. And because you have the winning campaign we used for another printer toner company in a different country or whatever that our client is in, you could just use that, and you're basically getting through the hard part of selling right up front. And we sell those for a one-time fee, but not here to do a sales pitch necessarily. So with that said, so there gave you some basic advice already. With that said, you should enter a niche that, if you enter a niche that's too big for your britches, so to say, it will be unnecessarily hard to get your business off the ground. When you're very new in business, you're so inefficient. You don't have the proper everything, basically. It's amazing that any startups survive. That's why 90% of them fail effectively, because they don't have the proper, bill collection process or proper security, proper site management people, that prevent hacking, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And then it's just amazing that you get through not having all these things and not have such a big problem along the way that it takes you down completely. But with that said, you could get to profitability and scale up much quicker if you picked a smaller niche where the stakes aren't as high. If you were trying to get and compete with, let's say, blinds.com, I had a client that was trying to do that. And I looked at his site and I said, you're trying to compete with blinds.com and like another site that's about as big as blinds.com selling custom blinds for people's houses. You realize blinds.com is probably making $500 million a year in sales. And you're going to come and compete with them with a website that you spent probably $50,000 to put together or less. You're not going to make that work. How are you, with their hundreds of millions what they could put into making that website convert so perfectly well, you're going to buy the same traffic as them, not getting it as cheap as them at the beginning because you're new, and then converting half the rate that they are because they have the millions already invested into data to figure out what converts. So you're ended up having to pay 4 times as much as a customer as them, no repeat customers, no referral business. How are you going to make this work? People don't think this through. They just see, oh, I have blinds, I sell them locally, I could sell them nationally. There's no problem, I just got to create a website. Not going to work. The people, there's so much at stake, there's people willing to dump millions upon millions into it at a loss just to get it working, and then once it's working, they dump tens of millions into it in terms of marketing studies to figure out how to make the site convert just a tiny bit better and so forth. It's too much to take on unless you already have millions upon millions to dump into it at a loss before it works. A much better approach would be to find a small niche that nobody gives a shit about, because if you get it to work, you can make 100 grand a year in profit, but that's it, because there's not that much market size in that market, such as you could sell laptop batteries. I've seen somebody who has done this before. Or furnace filters, where somebody needs a specific filter for a furnace and they can't find it at their store because they have an obscure unit. What do? You go online. Why not run an ad for somebody who's looking for a furnace filter for that exact furnace that you can then ship to their house? That's not a huge potential business. You're not going to be King Midas with selling furnace filters for the odd person who can't get them at the local store, or don't want to get them at the local store, or don't want to go to Amazon, or doesn't go to Amazon, or whatever. And because the big guys don't give a shit about 100 grand a month business, you could step in there and make that work rather well, just simply by working harder than the other guy. Working harder a lot of times just means make the website convert a little bit better than the leading guy, and then make your ads a little bit better than the leading guy, and bang, you have a business. Now you're making 100 grand a year. You could siphon off half of that, 50 grand a year, to get a medium competitive business to work. Because if you dump $5,000 a month into this other business enough times, whether it takes you 3 or 4 years, you're eventually going to get it working, and you have money to finance that. Versus the furnace filter business, you give me 25 grand at the most to get that business off the ground for starting ad spend, starting website design, all that. I can get that business going. Okay? And if obviously you don't have 25 grand, you have 5 grand, then you could find something that has even less money at stake, to where you could make a manager's salary running that business successfully, and then go after that, or what have you. So you just have to pick your battles, essentially. Pick a niche, ideally that where you have domain expertise, because that's going to give you a major edge, but in which you could make something that's legitimately 10 times better than the competition in terms of the offer structure, like I discussed before, or just making the easiest thing to do is just make the website convert better and make the ads set up a little bit better than your competition, which at a small scale, people are only willing to invest so much into their website to make it convert so well because there's only so much money in it. Versus, so in your case, you could just figure out how to make sites convert well. That's not easy, but you could, and then use that as your edge, purely as your sole edge. That and making the ads more efficient than the competition. So, anyway, with that said, if you've noticed, these niches I mentioned are really weird, obscure niches. Obscure niches is where the money is at, because nobody's thinking about them. There's weird shit like, buying, solar panel installation tools. Nobody's thinking about this, but there's a decent sized market, people searching for that. So why not go after just that? I've got actually a list of 1,000 plus obscure niches like this that I've dealt with in the past, either through people contacting my agency trying to work with us, or people we work with. If you want to know, if you want that list, I'll easily provide it for you for free. Just contact me at my site after watching this video. I guarantee PPC, I'd be happy to provide that to you. But if it's like a common everyday niche like airsoft guns, it's going to be saturated. And not only that, people think that's kind of cool. Do something that nobody thinks cool. replacement motors for conveyor belts. Nobody's thinking about that. Nobody gives a shit, and that's not cool. That's the specific thing that you want to tap into. And then, of course, in a market that's not so huge, that you have major companies throwing millions at it to get it working, then that's where you want to be. And then also, particularly if you can get it, where you would actually, like in the motor example, know something about motors. So if somebody calls, they have a question, you can actually consultatively take them through the motor that they need. That'll give you a major edge. You don't even need to hire anybody to, ultimately understand how to sell or do sales. You just got to pick up your phone and you'll make a sell. So anyway, with that said, those are the main kind of overarching things that I would say. If I were to do this all over again, you said, Corey, I'm going to take all your millions away from you, and you're going to go back to square one. You got $5,000 or $10,000 to invest into a business. What would you do all over again, knowing what you know today, and assuming you weren't going to use like your identity, your brand identity to make money? Like, obviously, if you took everything away from me, and then I just all of a sudden said, oh, I'm doing consulting for XYZ per hour, that's much less than my rate now, then it would be easy to build up again. But assuming I can't use my identity, what would I do? And knowing what I know now, I would take the approach of specifically drop shipping. Now, drop shipping usually gets shit on a lot, or either that or scammers that are trying to sell you a course will talk it up, not actually doing any drop shipping themselves, of course. But there's a specific type of drop shipping that works really, really well to this day and should continue to work for the next 10 plus years. And that is specific drop shipping for high dollar. We're talking 5-6-figure product sales. That you could. So what you do essentially is you set up a website. To give you an example, guy was doing home dialysis equipment. Okay, we're talking $20,000, $30,000 pieces of equipment. Of course, that type of equipment, you're going to go online for it, right? The people that sell these machines, they don't have product experts that you can contact you through their site. You can actually test it. If you've come up with a product like that and you go contact all the other people who sell it online, and if they don't get back to you right away and the person you get's an airhead, you already know you have an opportunity there. You just simply set up your website to look like you sell all the different brands of home dialysis equipment itself, like you're selling it yourself. And you run the ads for keywords like home dialysis equipment, so on and so forth. And then you get them to your site. You pretend like you're selling them. And then when somebody calls, you answer the phone and you talk them through the home dialysis equipment that you need. Just the fact that you answer the phone makes you 10 times better than the competition. That's your edge. And obviously, dropshipping works with a $20,000 sale, because when you go to the real seller of the product and you say you want 10%, almost anybody will let you sell their stuff and dropship it if you only want a 10% commission, because they have to pay their salespeople 10% anyway. So plus, on a $50,000 or $20,000 piece of equipment, people don't need it like that. They're willing to wait 5 days versus 2. So you go out and reach out to the other equipment sellers, the other so-called competition. If I bring you a customer, will you give me 10% of the sales price? Yeah, sure. And now you got a business already. You just have to, and if you don't know anything about home dialysis equipment, you figure it out. You start reading articles about what's good, what's bad. I could figure that over a weekend enough to where I could answer sales calls. Then it's just a matter of answering the phone. This, however, though, is not a popular method or piece of advice that I give guys that are trying to break into online marketing, because they don't want to work. They want to sit on a damn beach and have money just come into their account. They don't want to talk to anybody. Sorry, if you want to do that, you're going to need a lot of money for a really, 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 really good website, practically speaking, because the businesses where you don't have to talk to anybody, those are so competitive, and Amazon already does that well. So you can eventually do it, like if you had a website that would take you through a complicated sale like a blinds.com do with blinds, that's going to cost so much money, you're back to square one, you don't have that money. So the easiest way to get started is to use your own elbow grease, talking to these customers that come in, sell that way, until you have enough money to build a website that can take orders online and actually do it in a way that Amazon can't, because that's what it's going to take. So I would do that. You can make easy 20 grand a month just doing the home dialysis equipment drop shipping method that I told you. If it's not home dialysis equipment, do other medical equipment. Medical equipment's perfect, by the way. There's tons of home oxygen machines, so on and so forth, hyperbaric chambers, all this stuff. So that's what I would do. And then when I had that go and I'm making my 20 grand a month, I can just put 10 grand a month into any business I basically want now, versus the really, really big dollar ones like the blinds.com thing I told you about, where they're making $500 million a year in sales. But I would then reinvest at least half. I would be taking 75% of my money personally, because I don't want to be sitting there answering phones for the next 20 years and pissing my money all the way away on coke and strippers, which is really dumb. Start your real business that can operate without you. And because you're hiring a salesperson to answer those calls, it's going to be so expensive for the person who does it right. Most of your profit's going to be gone. I mean, technically, you could buy the home dialysis equipment and start selling it out of your warehouse, and then that would bring your margins up, so you could hire a salesperson. That is one route, but I think it would be easier just to simply do the calls yourself and then invest into a website that can obscure niche again, selling leads, such as you had an example of somebody who sold those motorized shades that go up and down with pressing a button on a remote that go over your windows at your house. And there's so few people doing that in a local market that basically you'll be the only one. So there's your 10x edge, and just run a little site that say you do that, and then answer the phone, and when you book the meeting, and then call the guy who actually does it and say, hey, I just booked an appointment with this guy for XYZ time. If you give me 10% of the sale, I'll give you this call. Otherwise, I'm giving it to the other guy. Because there'll usually be more than one actually in the area that can actually do that. And then that's all you do. Then you take your 10% commission. That answering the phone in that case is a hell of a lot easier to outsource that to a new employee than to consultatively take somebody through a home dialysis equipment sale. That's why I'm going to go with that. That's more taking yourself out of the business. Or you could go the actual e-commerce approach, like I said. If you don't want to do the lead selling, you could go after and sell the laptop batteries or whatnot, and set up a campaign. So when somebody's looking for a Samsung XJR9 replacement laptop battery, that you have an ad that's on the top of Google that says Sony or Samsung SJ, whatever I just said, laptop batteries for sale, in stock, ready to ship, click here. It's so laser targeted. Why? Because nobody does that. They just want an ad that says laptop batteries here. You go ahead and go through the trouble to make sure you have a laser targeted ad for the exact battery they want. They'll click through your ad at a super high rate. You'll pay a super low cost per click. You'll get a super high conversion rate because you got the exact person you want, and take them to that exact battery. That's a super efficient way to make money with PPC. And all you got to do is just buy a bunch of batteries. And you could start out with just 50 different batteries. You don't have to have all 5,000 different batteries. Just start out with 50, make that work, then invest in the next 50 and the next 50 and build it up. That, practically speaking, takes none of your work, because a $50 battery, they don't need to talk to somebody on the phone. Once you start talking about three-figure businesses, three-figure price point, they usually need to talk to somebody. So anyway, that's another way to diversify your income into something that where you don't have to work your ass off to make the 20 grand a month, and can scale, and you can set up multiple businesses like this and keep scaling. Furthermore, whether you scale your drop shipping business and create it and do the actual physical purchasing of the products, or you're doing your laptop battery site like I was talking about, you can develop your own shipping center and staff. So why, drop shipping has less overhead, but not really. The margins is much greater shipping your own product out. And as you scale up your ad spend and you sell more, you can get the product for cheaper because you're buying in bulk. So your goal is to just do as much volume as you can, and then really you don't make much money in e-commerce until you're doing like $3 million a year, because there's so much overhead in general. So you either go big or go home. You're either going to stay doing your 100 grand, 200 grand a year and do it all yourself mostly, or you go to 3 million plus. That middle ground is just shit in terms of ROI and headache and everything else. So you go ahead and you get your own shipping center and not use 3PL or Amazon because you go at the most margins you can, shipping it yourself, selling the hell out of those products, getting your shipping center, getting margins up as high as possible. Why? Because now when your margins, instead of being 15%, you got 55% margins because you're ordering in bulk now. You can pay so much more for ads, and probably more for ads and more for a customer than any of your competition, also gunning for customers in your niche. And once you do that, then the money is going to really start rolling in. And then from there, I would reinvest my money into engineering products. So, which is the highest profitable activity slash business type you basically can do. That is, you go, and this is very simple, you go to Amazon and you start reading reviews. And you start reading what people are saying that are pissed off about the products that they are buying. And if you find, for instance, one of the products that we had was like a weight that I also run and am part owners in that company that sells like a weight product. Well, part of the weight product, people used like exercise and stuff just to keep it generic without giving away my business here, so people start competing with me. It would break open when you dropped it. And so we saw that, and then there's your business idea right there. Just create a version of that doesn't break when you drop it. And then you just advertise it. It's impossible to break when you drop it effectively. So you just read on Amazon for people where they're bitching and there's no product that fixes that. Then you just create a product that fixes that. You could simply go to like an Upwork or go to a manufacturer and have them design you a product. They charge you an engineering fee. You just say, here, take this product, make a version that's unbreakable. They'll say, okay, we just got to change this and change this. They'll give you a design, and you pay the engineering fee, and then you order your first 100, you put them up, and you start selling it. And if you're smart about it, you don't do any of that until you know that the market's proven. So you would go ahead and create a listing on Amazon or on your website. Amazon's easier, selling that hypothetical fictional product that you want to sell, that you think will sell, and then sell it. And then if it sells, refund the customer saying, oh, sorry, we're out of stock, apologize or whatever. And now you have market there, actual demand, before you go through the trouble of actually making the product. But because you made the product, there is now no competition, and there's demand for that exact product. So instead of competing, going back full circle here with like the home dialysis equipment and competing with all the other companies that sell that exact model of equipment, even though you can compete just through customer service, like I was saying, there is nobody you're competing against. You sell a machine that's superior in the ways that people care about, and you're the only one doing it. Now your margins can be 65, 70%. And you can actually get into getting other people to sell it for you. You sell it. I like selling direct to consumer online, and then once you build your brand up far enough, then you contact offline brands and say, hey, we got 500 people a month searching for our brand name. You should sell our product in store, because there's going to be a certain percentage of people who will buy our product in store just because you have it, because it's a branded product now. And then they sell it for you, and all you got to do is just keep manufacturing it, and that's super passive. So anyway, that's my basic game plan that I would use, and I'm giving to you to grow the amount of money you're making online depending on wherever you're at. If you're not starting with $5,000 or whatever, you can go with the things that I would do later on. As mentioned, depending on where you're at, the amount of money you have, you can get into doing different stuff. So it goes from drop shipping to creating your own site, selling a product or service, to scaling up that product or service, to engineering your products and selling those unique products that you create. I didn't mention on selling the leads, by the way, with like the motorized shade company. Obviously with that, the other way to scale up before engineering products is to actually hire guys full-time that'll do the motorized shades. And that's actually better, because the problem with outsourcing services is you get idiots and they'll potentially mess up your brand and you get bad reviews. So you got to be very careful about that. You got to be on top of it. So if you get a bad review, you switch the guys right away. And it's kind of a hassle, which is why you would eventually just get your own full-time guy that's good and is honest and is not going to, mainly because it's half-assed. It's not like a mistake. They just don't give a shit. And so The only way to fix that is you have to hire your own guy, and you have to train them right, and you got to treat them right. Everybody wants to know how to retain employees. To retain employees, it's simple. You got to not be an asshole, because a lot of people quit because you're an asshole. And you got to be able to pay slightly above market rate, because some people will just quit if they can make more money. Not all people, and actually not most. But if you can, on top of it, pay 15% more than what the local guys are paying in that same niche, if you will, then there's no reason that they're ever going to leave. And then with that, you've got some leverage over them. So when you say you must do it this way, they're afraid to lose their job and will do it that way. And you can create the systems and enforce those systems. So anyway, I think I spoke enough on this particular topic here. If you have any questions about how to get rich online now, that it's something that you think I should have covered and didn't, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person that leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a couple days' time. If you have any ad-related questions, you can also ask those. This is what this channel primarily is about, but I also wanted to venture into offering a little bit more business advice, since also I want to try to offer that on this channel as well, at least to the level that I have it. But if you like the channel and the video here, you should definitely check out the rest of my channel and actually subscribe, because the information I'm providing you on this channel is all stuff that I figure out works on the ad campaigns that we use for our clients, and the strategies we use for our clients to grow their sales using online advertising, which is what we specialize in here. Therefore, you can count on it, unlike what other YouTubers that don't actually run ad agencies are doing, which is, they're just speculating. So it's the best information I promise you can find on YouTube about how to actually make money with ads. You can also check out my blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog, as well as my column over at entrepreneur.com that I write. If you are looking for somebody to set up your ads for your company, this is exactly what I specialize in conjunction with a few other e-commerce sites that we also run and own here on the side, as mentioned on the video. But our primary business is still working with clients itself. And so if you are looking for somebody who can get you results, real results, we actually, if you reach out to our firm, we'll give you a free assessment. And we actually don't charge money to our clients unless we can raise your sales. And so with that, we would raise your sales or offer to before we would take any fee at all. And there is no catch other than we don't work with just any client. You have to have something great that we know we can get great results with. But if you have something good that just needs the right marketing sprinkled on top, we would be more than happy to work with you and not take payment until you've gotten more sales on the same ad spend that you're spending now, or somewhat similar to that we'd be able to offer you up front, just as a way of breaking into the relationship. So you can reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com to get that free analysis. Beyond that, if you are, as I mentioned it earlier in the video, looking for ad templates that would work for your industry or another industry you would like to break into, we sell those for a one-time fee. We've worked in over 100 markets. That is, if we've worked in your market before and you just want to shortcut your way to success in your market running ads on Google, Facebook, what have you, you can use the exact ads, landing pages, everything that we've developed for your industry to get results in your industry, to copy and paste into your own ad accounts and get the same results we are, of which we can tell you what results we got in your market already before you would ever buy those templates from us. And it will save you tons of time and money figuring out what we had to figure out over years to do something in a different geographic market or different part of the globe that you are actively trying to operate in. Even if it's e-commerce, a lot of times we have campaigns we ran in Ireland, and you're in the US, you can use those e-commerce templates for that exact product type in the US, and that's how it works. So anyway, if you're interested in that as well, you can reach out to me at guaranteedppc. I'd be more than happy to go over and explain what we have for you as well, what results we've gotten with the templates in different markets. I'll wrap it up with that though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you on my next video where we have another great strategy for you then. See you later.